Okay, so let's unpack this. Today, we are taking a really deep dive into this powerful concept of divine nature,
Hmm.
and specifically how finding that sort of spiritual grounding isn't just, some abstract idea. It's a direct path to, well, to actual inner well-being.
That's exactly right. And our sources for this, they're so beautifully holistic. We're blending, we're pulling from ancient religious texts, deep philosophy, and then bringing in nature writing.
And it all leads up to some very practical modern psychology.
Exactly. Things like focused meditation. It's almost like an instruction manual for integrating all the different parts of yourself.
To really set the tone here, our sources start with this really striking piece of a poem by Thomas Maples. It goes, "Divine heart, shine bright springtime bliss, the soul's delight, calming seas within."
Calming sees within. I love that. That's really the goal, isn't it?
It is.
And our mission today is to break down the actual steps the sources suggest for, quieting all that inner noise and charting a course toward that deep internal peace. We're trying to give you the essential knowledge to actually put these ideas into practice.
And we should probably start at the very beginning, right? The philosophical roots of this whole idea of a divine image, which takes us to the book of Genesis.
Right. The anchor text is from Genesis chapter 1, verses 27 and 28. It says, God created man in his own image. Male and female, he created them.
And then comes the blessing.
The blessing and the command. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it.
Okay, so right away the sources point out this huge philosophical problem. If you only focus on that first part being made in God's image,
Yeah.
it can pretty easily just lead to, ego, kind of puffed up self-importance.
A sense of entitlement, even. But what's so incredible is how the text itself seems to supply the counterbalance. The command isn't just to be in that image, it's to do something.
To fill the earth and subdue it.
Exactly. And the authors of our material suggest that this requires action. And that action needs both ethos, which is, your character, your moral compass, and logos, your reason. They have to rise up together.
So the command to subdue the earth isn't about dominance over the planet. It's more about subduing the inner arrogance that can come with feeling so powerful.
Yes, precisely. You need character and reason to manage that potential.
But wait, that sounds like a really heavy burden. Why does the source frame this tension as an invitation? That seems counterintuitive.
Well, because that tension is, that's the whole engine of growth. The sources use this really powerful metaphor for it.
Oh, right, the light and shadow.
Exactly. The brighter the light, the greater the shadow that is cast. Your divine potential, the light, is huge. But that shadow, the ego, the self-focus, it's just as big.
So the invitation is just to move forward knowing that the shadow is always there with you.
Yes, and using your character and your reason, your ethos and logos to constantly integrate it, to become a whole, functional, purposeful self. It's an invitation from God to harness a more holistically divine state for our inner well-being.
I see. So for you listening, when you feel that sense of entitlement, or maybe you're just struggling with burnout, it's possible you're operating from that unchecked divine image part of yourself.
That's the balance, yeah.
Okay, so we've got this internal tension, but the sources then suggest we can actually see this same pattern reflected outside of ourselves.
Absolutely. In nature, it makes a really necessary pivot from this internal philosophy to just looking around, looking at nature as a perfect mirror for this inner divinity.
And that's where the Thoreau quote comes in.
Yes, from Henry David Thoreau. Nature is full of genius, full of the divinity, so that not a snowflake escapes its fashioning hand.
I love that. It makes the divine so immediate. It's not some abstract concept in the heavens.
It's molecular.
It's right there in the details of a snowflake. It's profound.
And if that divinity is in the detail of the snowflake, well, then it has to be within the detail and complexity of each of us, which is the next step the source takes, uniting this, meticulous reason with our emotional life.
They use this great analogy they talk about the union of philosophy and art as being like a tapestry, where you're weaving together logical reason on one hand and spontaneous emotion on the other.
It helps bridge that old philosophical gap, the split between the thinking mind and the feeling body. The sources argue that real wisdom isn't just purely rational. It has this kind of artistic, poetic quality where the heart and the mind are merged.
So we're trying to weave our scientific reasoned self with our spontaneous, artistic, emotional self. And that connection is what lets the full genius of being to blossom.
Yes, exactly. This dance of thought and feeling. But, and this is a huge but, there's a catch. Achieving this takes vulnerability. The authors are very clear that the act of fully opening your heart, of letting your mind and emotions really merge, is a delicate and often difficult undertaking. You have to let your guard down.
And that difficulty, that brings us right to the core psychological challenge of all of this, which is just the great difficulty in quieting the mind.
Right. The mind's natural state is just, well, to wander. The source is called the meanderings.
It's a survival thing, right? Always scanning, always processing.
Totally. And those meanderings are always pulling our attention away from that quiet, integrated space we're trying to find.
So if the mind is built to wander, how can we be sure that just, making space is enough? Won't it just keep wandering? Doesn't it take more effort than that?
Well, that's where the practice comes in. The whole point of things like mindfulness or meditation or prayer, it isn't to stop thinking. You can't.
Right.
The goal is just to create that quiet space. It's an act of will, but the will is focused on redirecting, not stopping.
And this is where that beautiful spring metaphor comes into play. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, think of your mind, your consciousness, like a garden. When you practice quieting it, you're creating a spring, a calm center. And in that calm, the torrents of winter rains can cease.
The rains being all the chaotic thoughts.
All the chaotic thoughts, the external noise, the negativity. And once that deluge stops, the sun can finally shine its nurturing life force onto everything that's already trying to grow inside you.
I really like that image. It's about creating the right conditions, not fighting the storm.
Exactly. You're just allowing something that's already there to flourish. The path is just learning to redirect your focus again and again. And when you do that, the heart can, as the source says, expose itself to a spark that creates a new passion.
And from that passion, a divine sense of purpose emerges.
That's the goal. That's the whole journey from chaos to purpose.
Which perfectly sets us up for the really actionable part of this deep dive. The practical guide the sources provide for fostering this state, which they actually call bliss.
Yes, the 5 to 10 minute heart-mind connection technique.
This is so critical for anyone listening who wants to try this.
It is. The goal is to create constant, open communication between your intellectual center, your mind, and your emotional center, your heart. It's about finding that deep harmony we were just talking about.
So the technique itself, it's pretty structured. The first phase, just for a minute or two, is simple breath awareness. You just sit and observe your breath, not trying to change it.
Right, just noticing. Then you shift to heart awareness. For maybe 2 or 3 minutes, you bring your full attention to the center of your chest. You're feeling for physical sensations like warmth or a pulse.
And here's where it gets active.
Very active. You use your breath to manage emotion. You imagine warmth expanding when you inhale, and you allow any tension or coldness or that shadow we mentioned to just leave with the exhale. It's an active release.
That feels like a key distinction. You're not just observing your heart, you're actively cleansing that space.
You are. Then step 3 is thought awareness. For a minute or two, your attention goes back to the mind, and you watch your thoughts without judgment, like clouds drifting across the sky. You see them, you acknowledge them, but you don't get on the train. You just let them pass.
Okay, so once you've anchored yourself in breath, heart, and mind, you get to the core of it, the uniting visualization.
This is the moment. This is where you bring it all together. You imagine a gentle stream of light flowing from your mind's eye, that spot between your eyebrows.
The light of awareness.
It's the light of awareness and reason, yes. And you follow that stream of light as it moves gently down and sinks right into your heart space.
And as that light merges the two, the feeling of warmth and peace and integration just expands. It radiates out, filling your whole being.
And that feeling of illumination, that is the experience of accessing your inner divine nature. The whole technique is designed to create that communication, to ensure your reasons serve your highest character. That's the definition of inner harmony.
So what does all this mean for, your daily life? The sources leave us with this really great grounding takeaway. Life is a practice, not a perfect.
Which is so important to remember. Daily stress, the chaos, it's not going away. But a consistent practice, whether it's prayer, mindfulness, or this 10-minute technique, it gives you daily access to that inner spring of divine knowledge.
It's a resource that's always there.
It's always there, even when you feel completely lost.
And by using that resource, you're building what the source calls daily happiness habits. You're charting a course, accepting that you'll always be navigating the currents, not trying to find some, perfect final shore.
And that leads us to the final, really provocative thought from our sources, something for you to just sort of mull over today.
And the questions are, what discipline calls upon you? What nuances of being is your soul placing before you? even if it is in the stresses of the day.
In other words, look at your stress. What is it trying to teach you?
And by really observing those daily stresses and making that choice to navigate them with both character and reason, you might just find that those calming seas were always present.
Yeah, you just needed to quiet the noise to discover them inside yourself.